Before we get straight into the podcast, I just want to give a huge shout out to our sponsors, Kirby GAA Star. Declan Kirby GAA Star Championship Journey. It's a series of GAA team children's books written by primary school teacher and GAA coach Michael Egan. You can check it out in the link in the description down below, of course, as well. Follow the trials and tribulations of Declan Kirby and his team at Smithgreen Gaelic Football Club, recently formed a promising GAA team. The book is now available in Easons and all good bookshops, so check it out in the description down below, and let's get straight into it. Welcome back to GAA Fan TV. My name is Aaron. It's the football review show as always, and I'm joined here by Matthew Hurley from the GAA Statsman Podcast. I suppose, Matthew, first of all, how's things with yourself? I know you're at the Galway and Cork game obviously at the weekend, and of course you're at the Camogie game as well, so plenty of action obviously, and I suppose you're enjoying all the football as always.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Aaron, once again. And yeah, I definitely enjoyed the game on Saturday night. It's strange to see a football game actually higher scored than the Camogie. The Camogie was high scoring from Cork, but Limerick were just a bit off in fairness. But geez, the men's footballers actually put in a good performance, so I didn't think that was in them. But yeah, Galway, definite all-Ireland contenders in my opinion. Shane Walsh, super player and all that. And I suppose the games on Sunday, even Dublin lose to Kildare, I know that wasn't pleasant at all for you, Aaron. I've seen on your match reaction afterwards, you were pretty angry about it. But for Kildare to win that for the first time since 2000, brilliant achievement for them. And I suppose the only downside was not enough games were shown on TV, like Mayo and Armagh yesterday, Kerry and Monaghan. But I suppose, look, football's back and it's here to stay, and it's absolutely brilliant. And roll on the next few games. There was crackers this weekend, and there should be a few crackers in the next few weeks too.
Yeah, I suppose as we were chatting off air, I think Liverpool winning the whatever the name of that cup is these days, I think them winning definitely kind of rubbed over the wounds a little bit. But I suppose, yeah, starting about Kildare and Dublin, obviously this was a game on TG Cahir on Sunday. Only two of the four Division 1 games were actually on TV, which was absolutely crazy, really. But I suppose in terms of this game, like, what a huge win for Kildare, like their first win over Dublin since 2000, 22 years. You know, there would have been players there out on the pitch that have never beaten Dublin, or have never even seen, weren't even alive when Kildare last beaten Dublin, or were young, you know. So, I mean, an incredible result really from them. And, geez, the Leinster Championship, we might actually have a Leinster Championship now this year.
Yeah, isn't it brilliant? At the same time, I know Dublin were winning over the last few years and you were enjoying that while it lasted, but I suppose we haven't had a real Leinster Championship since about 12 or 13, and it's absolutely brilliant. You know that Kildare are right in the mix again. Like, they have some very good young players coming through. It's not just Dublin being poor and all that. Like, Jimmy Hyland's actually top scorer Division 1 so far, so brilliant performance by him. And you actually have more players to come in, like Kerry as well. And I suppose the backroom team definitely helped as well. Glenn Ryan, Johnny Doyle, Dermot Early, Anthony Rainbow. And it was great to see them embrace at the sideline. It was absolutely brilliant from a neutral point of view. And yeah, it was an absolute brilliant win for Kildare. And even Aaron O'Neill scoring that late point, brilliant achievement by him. Like, he's really the first choice goalkeeper either. It's Mark Donlan, but brilliant achievement by him to kick effectively the winning score as well and to top off his day. And what a day for everybody to do, Bridge. A full house, packed to the rafters there, and brilliant win for Kildare. But I suppose the other side of the coin, and you mentioned on your match reaction afterwards, we said it off air, it wasn't a pleasant afternoon for Dublin. And the question is, where does this team go from here? Like 6 All-Irelands in a row, and now 5 losses in a row. Who would have seen that coming?
Yeah, and I think I've seen a statistic there where it's like the first time since the early 2000s or something like that it's ever happened. And I don't think Dublin have ever lost 6 games in a row. So, I mean, going into that Tyrone game, all of a sudden there's all sorts of pressure really leading into that. But from a Kildare point of view, I mean, as you mentioned there, like Jimmy Hyland with 1-5, Daniel Flynn was superb. Like, he set up that goal, kicked some absolute wonder scores at different stages in the game as well. You still have Derek Kirwan to come back in. Paddy Woodgate has been a fantastic addition and a brilliant find from Glenn Ryan and his management team. Kevin Flynn around the middle. I mean, where do Kildare rank in terms of the overall? Like, I think we definitely have them right now as up there as one of the contenders in Leinster, if not second, maybe first. You could argue first or second, obviously, at the minute, and probably most people would still have them at second, but they're definitely in the top 2 anyway. There's no denying that. But in terms of the overall, like, All-Ireland picture, like, I don't think anyone fancies them now to go and do anything magical, win an All-Ireland or anything crazy like that. But where do you think they are in terms of the big picture? Like, could they sneak into, could they be All-Ireland quarterfinalists? Could they get to a semi-final? I mean, what do you think?
I think the quarterfinal is definitely a realistic objective, considering like the only team to really challenge them for the Leinster title this year is probably Dublin. Meath are a long way off, in my opinion, by the looks of them so far, and it'll only take until a new manager comes in that they'll get their bounce again. Awfully, it's a bit too soon. So you have to say Kildare, Dublin are up there in Leinster, and by the evidence of yesterday's performance, Kildare will win Leinster, no doubt about it. Then they'll be in a quarter-final, and if they get a good draw in the quarter-finals, possible semi-final achievement. And for a county like Kildare not to get to a semi-final since 2010, they're a football-mad county, as everybody well knows, and it'll be a brilliant achievement, and no better men than Glenn Ryan, Anthony Rainbow, the 2000 crew, basically, to guide them into that semi-final as well, or a quarter-final, whatever it may be. So, brilliant achievement by Kildare to beat Dublin yesterday, but I suppose, yes, they've beaten Dublin, they've drawn against Kerry, but the job isn't done yet. I think they have to win maybe one or two more games to survive yet. So the job isn't done quite yet. I suppose Dublin, you would say they'll be going down, but I don't know about Monaghan. They seem to always find a way to survive somehow. And then you have Tyrone also on 3 points. So the job is not done by any manner of means for Kildare. They have to win their next few games to make sure survival. But a Leinster title is definitely a realistic objective, considering Meath are far off. Dublin, by the looks of it, Kildare were all over them yesterday, and it maybe should have even been more than 3 points. They kind of lacked the killing edge in the last few minutes of the game. So, yeah, the Leinster title is there, but at the same time, they have to keep their heads screwed on. You know, it's just a win at the end of the next match now. They have to perform and be consistent throughout the next few matches.
Yeah, like, and for Kildare in particular, I mean, like, I've seen a lot of people giving them a lot of criticism when they celebrated after the Dublin victory, which found a bit surprising, to be honest. Like, a lot of well-known journalists, ex-players, giving Kildare a lot of stick, really, for the way they celebrated the victory, and I found it very harsh, to be honest, because, number one, I think the main reason why they're celebrating is because, they came up to Division 1, they lost a very well-respected manager in Jack O'Connor, who I think a lot of people looked at Jack O'Connor as the one who was really leading them in the right direction. They maybe overachieved slightly last year in getting to Division 1. So I think a lot of people expected them to be relegated, to be that team that was probably going to finish bottom. So beating Dublin, going 3 points ahead of them, I think that's a big reason why they've celebrated there. And also as well, given the fact that it is Dublin, they are fierce rivals, 22 years without a win. Like, I think with a lot of teams, if it had been the other way around, like if it was Dublin who hadn't beaten Kildare in 22 years, I guarantee Dublin players would be jumping all over the place when they beat Kildare. So I think it was a little bit unfair, the criticism really labelled at Kildare. But what did you make a little bit of all that, of all the celebrations? Like, was it a little bit over the top, or what do you think?
I think it was justified, in all honesty. Like, it actually reminds me of, when Westmeath beat Meath in 2015, a long period going before beating your rivals. Another one, Tipperary against Cork in 2016. I think it was since World War II. They didn't beat Cork then, and there was a few others. I think Cavan beat Donegal as well. There was jubilant celebration. So Kildare are well entitled to celebrate, and I don't think the players or Glenn Ryan or Johnny Doyle, etc., will care a jot about the media just criticising Kildare. Maybe it's just Dublin being salty or whatever, but I just think they're well entitled to celebrate. They haven't beaten them since 2000. Like, Mick O'Dwyer was in charge then. I wasn't even born myself back then. So, that tells you how long ago that was. So, they're well entitled to celebrate. I found it complete madness, to be honest. Journalists just criticising Kildare celebrations. You didn't beat your rivals in 22 years. You're well entitled to celebrate whether it's league or championship. And well done to Kildare. But again, maybe they need to get their heads screwed on a small bit. They're well entitled, no doubt, about the celebrations, but I think there is a job to do. They have to survive at Division 1 and potentially win a Leinster Championship. And if they do that, that's a successful year for Kildare. But if they don't do either of those things or do none of those things, then maybe the Dublin victory will be brushed under the carpet a small bit, and it might be forgotten in the next few months or so. So, as I said already, it is important that Kildare survive to build on this brilliant victory. But as as for the journalists criticising him, I thought it was over the top, in all honesty. You're well entitled to celebrate beating your rivals for the first time in 22 years. Go out and enjoy a superb achievement.
Absolutely. And Danny Allen says here, since 1990, this is the 7th time Kildare being called coming team, but with exception of 98, 2000 under Miko and 2010, Kildare have not been successful since the 1920s. Kildare equals hype with 3 Leinsters in 84 years. So some shots fired there. But yeah, I mean, I've said it in the past before, like I do think that Kildare team from, I would say, 2007, 2008, from upwards maybe to 2015, 2016, like there was that team definitely, in my opinion, could have got over the line in the Leinster final. Like I remember 2009, they gave Dublin a huge run for their money, and you think of 2010, like knockout, I think that did they lose to Louth that year or something like that, or they had a crazy year or something like that, and then went all the way to an All-Ireland semi-final. So they definitely probably did underachieve a little bit, and for a county of their size and population. But that's obviously all in the past. Like, you're looking ahead to the future, you're looking ahead to the next couple of years. And Kildare are looking very, very good. There was also a comment there from On Fire who says, is the phrase "it's only the league" still valid? Asking for a friend. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, for Dublin, I mean, relegation looks imminent really at this stage. I mean, let's not forget Kildare and Monaghan play each other in the next couple of games. So someone's going to collect points there, and you're looking at it and thinking Dublin might need to win every game realistically to avoid relegation at this point.
Oh, they definitely have to. Like, every win would get you 6 points. Like, that wasn't enough for Cork in 2016. So that tells you what a mammoth task that Dublin have in their hands. Next game's against Tyrone, the All-Ireland champions. I don't expect Dublin to win that. The form they're in at the moment, and you expect a backlash from Tyrone. I think, the first few games were, if the media were saying Tyrone are on the downer and all that, but I think they'll bounce back eventually. Then Donegal are in the forms of their lives at the moment, and they're in the forms of their lives usually at the start of the year, nearly every year. And then against Monaghan, I know Monaghan are struggling at the moment. We'll get on to them later against Kerry. It was a shambles, really, their performance. But Clonus will be a tough place to go for Dublin. And as you said in your reaction yesterday as well, Dublin don't have the best record in Clonus either. I remember Stephen O'Hanlon scoring a winning goal there one year. I think it was 19 or 20. So, look, it's going to be a very tough ask for Dublin to survive. And I suppose the disappointing aspect for Dublin, I said it a few weeks ago as well, some young players in their team, they show up one game and then the next game they're anonymous. A bit like Larkin O'Dell, for example. He scores 1-1 against Armagh. He scores a point against Mayo, but in the other 2 games, he's nowhere to be seen. Cameron McCormack is another one. I suppose Pador Coffey-Byrne, I would have expected him to step up to the plate. He hasn't played at all this year. Comerford, maybe you can't blame him at all, really. So, yeah, I suppose only Sean Butler and Kieran Kilkenny have performed excellent. I've seen stats there. I think Kilkenny scored 6 points for play. Butler scored 8 points. So you're looking towards them two as the star performers. But other than that, it's a worrying thing for Dublin. Brian Fenton does not look himself. I said this last week as well, and the point remains valid. Johnny Cooper was a bit anonymous yesterday. Like, you'd expect these senior players to step up for Dublin, and at the moment, they're just not. I just wonder, is it that the conveyor belt is done in Dublin, or are they just not playing for the manager? I'd be interested to hear your thoughts, Aaron. I know you've been going on about it and match reactions and all that, but I don't know, in some cases, it looks like the players aren't playing for the manager. I know that sounds daft, really. It's something that would happen in maybe soccer and not GAA, but it looks at their performances. It looks pretty evident to me.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think, for whatever reason, in terms of tactics and all the rest, I mean, they even highlighted it a little bit on Allianz League Sunday last night, where there was clearly pockets of space that they could play into. It just, it doesn't seem right top from bottom. Like, I mean, there's no movement at all up front. Dean Rock even looks a shadow of himself. Other than, Dean Rock usually was very quick. He was moving quite a lot. He'd create loads of space. He'd make himself available for goal chances. And he was always very, very reliable from frees. And even what was notable was in the first half, there was a free and Evan Comerford hit it off the ground and Dean Rock didn't even take it. And Evan Comerford scored it, I think, from what I remember. But then even late on in the second half, there was a 45, and Dean Rock hit it off the ground, or hit it from his hands. He didn't even hit it off the ground, which I just found a little bit strange. So I don't know what the story is really with a lot of the Dublin players. That obviously some of the players are getting older, and there's notably going to be a bit of a drop off. But in terms of the tactics, I mean, it's very similar to what I said last week. Really, like, it's just too much slow build up, no real urgency, and even watching Dessie Farrell's interviews after the games, to be honest, are even more painful, because he just says the same things, and you'd almost feel a bit bad for him a little bit, because he really does just look out of his depth. But I don't really know what you do, because he is a legend of Dublin football. He's an All-Ireland winner as a manager, as a player. I think it's very disrespectful to get rid of him now or anything like that. And, he does deserve to see out the year. But at the same time, you're looking at it and thinking, how bad could it get? Because it could get very bad before it starts getting good again for Dublin.
I suppose it can. Like, I think of a few examples. Cork going down to Division 3, but they were so competitive in Division 1, and then they dropped down like a stone. Armagh's another example after winning the All-Ireland in 2002. Tyrone maybe they recovered shortly afterwards. They were Division 2 for a few years. Meath, another main example, dropped off hugely. So there is the question with Dublin. People will say, they'll bounce straight back to Division 1. But the team that surprised me going down to Division 2 this year was Galway. And you could see there was a plan in Galway. There was young players coming through. Shane Walsh was on his form, Damien Comer as well. And they were always going to romp Division 2. Donegal, the same. Mayo, the same last year as well. With Dublin coming down, I kind of worry for them, in all honesty. Like, you said Clare could beat them. I was thinking, at watching that's a bit of an exaggeration there, but look at Clare's players coming through. That's not really an exaggeration thinking about it at all. Like Daniel Walsh and Emmett McMahon, they're probably better young players than what Dublin have coming through. So it is a big worry. I suppose if you get a new manager in, I don't know who you get in all honesty, but if you do get a manager in, it might create a bounce with the players. And I suppose it is a tough question here. How many of these old players would you get rid of? Like, would you get rid of Johnny Cooper? Would you get rid of, I'm thinking now, Mick Fitzsimons in that team? Or are they kind of the glue holding the whole thing together, and the young players are just not up to it? But you've seen over the last few years, under 20s are in the All-Ireland finals. Like, they played Cork in 19, they played Galway in 20. They were close. There was a close game against Galway. Cork kind of romped them, but still 2 finals in a row. You'd think the conveyor to talent is still there in Dublin. But by the evidence of the league so far, it doesn't seem to be. I don't know what that is, Aaron. Is it just players not stepping up to the plate, or they genuinely got lucky to get to those under 20 finals?
Yeah, I don't really know. Like, it's a hard one, really. Like, maybe you could look back at some of those under 20 campaigns and maybe say that the other teams maybe didn't have that much quality, but they did get to back-to-back finals. And I do think, like, I don't really fault the younger players too much, because I think what they're coming into at the minute is just a bit of a shambles, really. And you can tell maybe a lot of the younger players maybe are low on confidence a little bit, and it isn't quite there. Like, I feel like if things start to go well again for Dublin, you'll start to see maybe some of the younger players flourish. And there has been, there's signs there that Lorcan O'Dell's a quality player. There's signs there that Lee Gannon's a great player. It's a mystery, really, with Kieran Archer that he doesn't get more game time, considering how poor we've really been in terms of our full forward line. Like, it is surprising that he doesn't get in there. And even Danny Allen was said there. Ad McCarthy, Dublin's greatest player ever. Callaghan, Dublin's greatest forward talent ever. Merchant, Paddy Small, Costello. The Dubs will have the best team in Leinster. Kildare being hyped up again in February. And look, it is the point. I think Dublin definitely have the quality to win Leinster. There's no doubt about that. And even, I was saying about Clare maybe turning over the Dubs. Like, Dublin definitely have the quality to be beating Clare comfortably. Like, let's not get that wrong or get that twisted. But it just seems to be that the way that they're playing at the minute, I think a Clare could fancy a crack at Dublin, or a Cork even, or Roscommon, Galway, whatever. It's just the way that Dublin are playing really at the minute that I feel like those teams would have a chance. But yeah, like, when you add those players back in there, they're definitely going to be better, all right. But I don't know, it's a mystery really with Con O'Callaghan. Like, there's all sorts of rumours that he's gone in with the hurlers. I don't really believe it, because he was named in the team versus Kerry. James McCarthy was named in that team as well. But at the same time, why there's no communication in terms of is it an injury or what's going on? Like, you'd wonder really as well, like a lot of, you don't want to be criticised many people, but like, why isn't Desi being asked these questions or anything like that in post or in pre-match press conferences, interviews, and all the rest, and post-match? Like, why aren't they asking these questions? Because I don't, we're 4 games in now, and you feel like playing a Con O'Callaghan, like you'd play him against Kildare surely. So I don't know what's going on, to be honest.
I'd even go back to that training breach in April during the COVID times. The reason maybe because Cluxton and McCaffrey and all them stepped down, Mannion as well. They wanted to distance themselves from the panel maybe. Maybe it's that kind of an issue with Callaghan and Cooper, or McCarthy as well. So maybe that's an issue. Maybe they don't believe in Desi Var. Maybe to do that at that time, put it down to the squad. And ever since really that training breach, Dublin have not been the same since then either. So maybe that was an issue as well, that the players didn't believe in the manager. They didn't believe in what he was doing. And I suppose another argument as well, I've said this loads of times as well, Cluxton is a main loss. I know Comerford's a decent enough goalkeeper, but Cluxton's the player that sticks it together. He kicks the ball out well. He distributes well. He saves shots. He was the ultimate goalkeeper and the ultimate leader as well to calm down these young players. I don't think there's enough calmness in that Dublin team right now to calm down the young players, the likes of Larkin O'Dale coming through, or even Kieran Archer's a real mystery. Like, even under 20, he was one of the best players in that under 20, especially in 2019. He was ripping defences apart against Galway, against Cork in the first 10 minutes. So you have to wonder where this guy has gone over the last few years. David Clifford has excelled. Blake Murphy, as we see the Division 2, has excelled for Cork, scoring 1-5 from play. And Tom O'Culhan, Matthew Tierney for Galway. All these forwards have excelled. But Kieran Archer is still in the same time in development as he was in like 19. So that's a bit of a worry there. And I suppose as a Dublin fan, that has to be a worry, because potential-wise, Kieran Archer is one of the best players in Ireland. But if you're not going to play him, if you're not going to, believe in him, what's the point in having him at the same time? It's a bit of a strange one, in my opinion. And the fact that young players, even Reno O'Neill from Armagh, Jason Duffy coming through the ranks, and Kieran Archer still in the same line of development, that's a bit of a worry for Dublin, in all honesty. And it needs to get fixed sooner rather than later, or else Division 2 looming, or possible a longevity in Division 2.
Yeah, and Sir Klopp says there, out of Monaghan, Tyrone, Kildare and Dubs, which teams have the best fixture list there? It's an interesting one, all right. I think Tyrone definitely have the toughest fixture list anyway, because they play Dublin at home, and then they also have to play Kerry and Mayo in their final 3 games. And well, actually, I have an image here of the league table that will actually throw on screen there. Should get it up here. That's Division 2. There we go. And yeah, this image is from GAA League Tables on Instagram and also on Twitter, so you can check them out there if you want to, I suppose, keep up to date with all the league tables. But you can see there, like, Tyrone with that fixture list with 3 points on the board, playing like Tyrone are the one team I think Dublin maybe can catch. I'm not too confident that we'll beat Tyrone, but just given Tyrone's fixture list. But then again, you might say Kerry and Mayo, they might have a league final already wrapped up by then, so maybe they'll rotate a little bit. And Tyrone might be able to win one of those 2 games. Kildare, they play Monaghan at home, so that's why I think Kildare are going to avoid relegation, in my opinion, because they play Monaghan at home. They do have some tough games at the end there, like they still have to play Armagh there, I think, next as well, and they still have to play Mayo. So some tough games in there from a Dublin point of view. But what do you think ultimately? Do you think is there a way back for Dublin at this point? Is relegation? Could there be a way back? Like I seen Colm Cooper last night saying on Allianz League Sunday that it is retrievable. I don't know if it is, to be honest, given the way Dublin are playing. But what do you think?
It's going to be a very tough ask. Like, I think Monaghan, you don't have the best record, yes, but I think that'll probably be the most realistic game for a win. Like, Tyrone will be gunning for you. There's no doubt about that, because they have Mayo and Kerry the last 2 games. They're not going to risk it going into them games. They're going to be gunning for Dublin. The next game in Healy Park will be rocking it to try and drive Tyrone to victory. So I honestly don't see Dublin beating Tyrone up there. Donegal, I know it's in Croke Park. I think it is. Correct me if I'm wrong now, but I don't see you beating Donegal either. The way Donegal are playing with the likes of Conor O'Donnell in very good form, Michael Murphy might come back for that, Paddy McBrearty, Ryan McHugh, Michael Langan maybe might come back for that as well. So if all them players are there, and you look at Donegal, well, their main players against Tyrone, we'll get on to them later, but they were exceptional the other night. So I honestly don't see Dublin winning any of those 2 games at least. I think you'll beat Monaghan, but by then I think it's going to be too little too late. The damage will be already done. And unfortunately, I think Dublin will go down to Division 2. But I suppose the only ray of hope there is if you get a draw against Tyrone in Healy Park, then that'll give you a bit of confidence, because Tyrone are playing Mayo and Kerry in the last 2 games. We'll say they could be losses, and Tyrone could be dragged right into the relegation dog. But let's not forget Donegal got relegated after being All-Ireland champions in 2012. That wasn't that long ago either. So, it would be around the realms of possibility that Tyrone could get sucked into it. Look at their last 2 fixtures. I would give you slight hope there, but looking at Tyrone, they will be buoyed in Healy Park. Donegal's form at the moment, I know Cooper said it was retrievable. I don't see it though, unfortunately. I think Dublin will go down. I think Monaghan will be the other team to go down, but yeah, I think Dublin, their time is run in Division 1.
Yeah, no, it is hard to look past, and it wouldn't surprise me if Dublin were already relegated and then played Monaghan, and suddenly they started playing free-flowing football, and suddenly the pressure was off, and all of a sudden they produced a top performance. You'd wonder, is pressure maybe playing a part? And you wouldn't really normally say that with Dublin, because this team have been in far more pressurizing situations. I mean, they beat a brilliant up-and-coming Kerry team with 14. Well, they drew with them with 14 men, then beat them the next day out. But Rommel says here, Desi, hope we don't win Leinster, as Kerry will murder us in the All-Ireland semi-final. Yeah, I don't know. I think you need to stay positive. You need to support your county and keep the faith and keep the hope. I don't think there's no point being overly negative or thinking like that, because then, sure, what's the point then in supporting your team or following your team? You might as well just give up and follow something else. Look, I don't necessarily disagree with what you say. I think Kerry would fancy their chances, but it's a long time away. And maybe if Dublin do come through Leinster, which I still expect them to do, with players coming back, the confidence might be up a bit more, and playing in Croke Park, all the rest, it might just benefit them a bit more. We'll move on anyway and discuss Armagh and Mayo. A 2-point victory in the end for Mayo. Obviously, we've seen this game briefly on Allianz League Sunday. Still very, very surprised that this game wasn't shown on GAA Go or on TV anywhere, given the fact that it's, 2 probably of the best teams arguably in the country at the minute. So what were your thoughts from what you've seen on this game? Huge win for Mayo, who are, they're looking on track for a league final anyway.
Yeah, the thing was, Mayo could have easily folded after the first minute goal. I think it was one of the Mackens that got us. And look, well done to Mayo for winning that game. But it looks of us on the Scorpio app. Let's be honest, Scorpio is the place to get the games at the moment. If they're not being shown on GAA Go, you look at these GAA apps or Twitter to get your updates. But look at that anyway. Like, Armagh seemed to be ahead for most of the game, and Mayo needed to come back into it. And eventually, they led towards the end, led by Paddy Durkin coming off the bench. Brilliant performance by him. Ryan O'Donoghue, brilliant performance by him after a pretty poor display against Dublin last week. But he had his shooting boots on, in fairness. And Aidan O'Shea, I've seen on League Sunday as well, Armagh had to lay it free. Aidan O'Shea claims the ball down the other end, Mayo score. Maybe there's an argument that Aidan O'Shea is better off the bench. I know some Mayo fans are saying that he's useless, he's not good enough for Mayo anymore, but maybe there's a place for him in the panel. Bring him off the bench to defend the lead like that's what he did against Armagh on Sunday. Or else, if they're losing, put him into the square and, he could with a few balls up there, So there is positives for Mayo, and the fact that there is an attitude there, never say die. I suppose the only game in the last few years where that wasn't evident was the game against Tyrone last year, but maybe that was a blip in the sand there. Even Dublin, the semi-final, the league, throughout the league, brilliant by Mayo and brilliant performance by them. And it was a brilliant display by them, in fairness to them. Let's not forget, Ethan Rafferty was drafted into goal. I think he was a forward. One side might be wrong now. He's just number 16 there. But Blaine Hughes, I think, was injured. Rafferty comes in, and he actually performed pretty well by the looks of it on League Sunday. So there's a positive there. Maybe you could use him in the next few years as another goalkeeper. But I suppose Armagh would be happy just to survive. I know they've done well in the league so far, but to get 5 points. But surviving is the main aim for Armagh. It always has been since the start of the year, and I think they will get that quite comfortably. So well done to Armagh. Mayo, they're going to play Kerry next in Tralee. Austin Sachs Park's going to be bouncing in the next 2 weeks. And honestly, I can't wait to watch that game. I think it's on RT2, so definitely looking forward to that one.
Yeah, 100%. There's a real sort of heavyweight feel to it. Although I do think there'll be a bit of shadow boxing as well, because I do think it's the best 2 teams in the country at the minute, and I'm sure they won't want to force their hand, because I think the way things are scheduled as well is it could be very much a Mayo Kerry All-Ireland final if they both come through their provinces, both come through their All-Ireland semi-finals as well. So that would be very, very interesting indeed. And yeah, like you said there with Mayo, I mean, they seem to keep introducing young players. Like Frank Irwin started, obviously went off early, but yeah, Ryan O'Donoghue with 7 points, Aidan Orme with a point, Diarmuid O'Connor brilliant as well. And I actually think it's a bit of a masterstroke in many ways from James Horan there, not starting Aidan O'Shea and actually giving Stephen Cohen the captaincy. I think it's Stephen, it might be Darren Cohen, but I think Stephen Cohen is the captain. It's one of the Cohens anyway. But Aidan O'Shea, like what a decision to, leave him on the bench, because it takes the spotlight completely off him. And I think maybe then going into the championship as well, like he's just a good option to bring off the bench. And maybe with the fact he's getting older as well, like Mayo are looking towards other options and other players in there and trying to try different things out. So it could be a very, very good decision by James Horan. It could be something that could pay off further down the line, because it's a bit of a different proposition, I think, if you're in an All-Ireland final against, a Dublin, a Kerry, a Tyrone, and you're bringing on Aidan O'Shea off the bench. It's a bit like when Tyrone brought Cathal McShane off the bench last year. Like it's a big option to bring off, and it could be maybe a bit of a masterstroke further down the line from James Horan.
It definitely can, yeah. And even over the past few years, it's evidenced when players get older, they come off the bench and make a difference. You look at Ciara Donaghy for Kerry over the last few years, Bernard Brogan for Dublin, Tommy Freeman for Monaghan, and a few for Cork as well in that 2010 era, Derek Kavanagh being a main man off the bench, Graham Canty. So there is a place for these golden oldies, as they say. I know Aidan O'Shea isn't that old yet. I don't think he's even 30 now. I don't know what age he is, to be honest. I think he's around 28, 29. But still, compared to most of the players in that Mayo team, he is the most experienced campaigner, and he is a very handy option to bring off the bench. And maybe that could be the masterstroke from James Horan that will lead them finally to their first All-Ireland in 70 years. I might be jinxing Mayo fans by saying that now, but look, it's about time Mayo won an All-Ireland, and maybe this will be the tactic that will get them over the line. We'll have to see the few ones, but look, I'm delighted for Aidan O'Shea, because he got a lot of flack last year after the All-Ireland final. He's a superb player, we all know that. Maybe not as good as he was like in 15 or 14 or 13, but he's still a massive addition to that Mayo panel. So I'm delighted for him personally, because the flack he got from pundits, from presenters, from fans as well, and to recover in that way, to rejuvenate himself, brilliant achievement by him, and brilliant from James Horan to use him in a constructive way as well. And it could be the masterstroke that they need.
Yeah, and I just had a look there. He's 31, so yeah, I actually thought he was a bit older, to be perfectly honest. He's been around for so long that you forget that he is probably, he's still easily got probably 3, maybe 4 years left in the tank there. So definitely still plenty of years to come for him. I suppose from an Armagh point of view, I mean, obviously their first defeat of the year, but probably not too much concern. I mean, they're not going to get relegated at this point, and I'm sure a lot of the focus now will turn towards that Ulster Championship. Interesting enough, their next, they play Monaghan and Donegal in their next 3 games. They play Kildare as well. So there's a lot of winnable games in there. So it's not exactly inconceivable, especially with Kerry and Mayo playing each other. One of them 2 teams is going to drop points. Armagh still have to play Kerry, I think, as well, from what I remember. They already played Monaghan, actually. So, but, someone's going to drop points there. So it's not inconceivable that they make a league final. But I think at the same time, I think their main focus really will be on that Ulster Championship at this stage. I think all the preparation leads towards that, because it's a big year for them, obviously, in Ulster.
And that's no bad thing, not reaching a league final either. Like you see in the previous years, Roscommon went to the latter stages of the league, and then they went straight back down. No progress really made. Derry got to the final in 2014. Again, no progress made the next year. So maybe consolidating Division 1 status was the main aim for Armagh all along. A bit like Monaghan over the last few years. And look where Monaghan have got. Like, they've been competitive in all Ireland championships. They've got the semi-finals, etc. against all the odds, really, like beating Kerry in the Super 8. So maybe this could be a stepping stone for Armagh to improve in the next few years. And they definitely have the talent to do it. They definitely have the manager to do it if Keezer chooses to stay on for the next few years. So I suppose the main aim for Armagh is winning the Ulster Championship and getting to the final, because they haven't got to the final since 2008. We mentioned that so many times now over the last few years or so. So it is crucial that they reach that final. Like, when you consider Antrim, Down and Fermanagh and all them counties have reached an Ulster final more recently than Armagh. Like, that's a telling statistic there. And look, they need to reach that Ulster final to develop as a county. And they'll be happy to stay up in Division 1, but Ulster will be the main aim for them. Donegal and Ballybuffet, that will be a right old battle in the quarterfinals. And maybe that league game in the next few weeks, whenever that is, of course, like, that maybe could be a great curtain raiser to what is to be expected in the Ulster Championship. So looking forward to the next few weeks seeing Armagh. I think they could break that duck and get to the Ulster final this year, but we said that so many years, even 19, 20, 21, and they get blown out of the water eventually. This year could be the year, but they need to keep their feet on the ground now and grind out some wins and get to that Ulster final, because that would be the main aim for Kieran McGeeney and his team.
Yeah, and Alan Kenny says there the qualifier is going to be very interesting this year with the way draws happened for the provincials. Absolutely. I mean, there's a whole host of teams, really. You know, usually when you get to the final round of the qualifiers, you can start to see, right, well, these teams are going to progress to the quarterfinals. These teams are going to get to the semi-finals. But now I think it's, you know, you're seeing a lot more teams up and coming, the likes of Derry, obviously, and Armagh have come on the scene. Kildare looking pretty good. So a lot of teams have, you know, who were probably way below the, I suppose you could say, top 4 or 5 teams in the country have definitely started to close that gap a bit. Donegal against Tyrone. Donegal 210, Tyrone 12 points. Obviously, we were speaking about Donegal last week and saying, you know, they're not really progressing really, and their style is not particularly great. And, you know, but they show that, look, different styles is what makes sport interesting. And look, you see with Kilcoo, they play a running game. They won an All-Ireland Club Championship. So there is proof that this style does work. There's no doubt about that. And if you can get it right, it does work. And Donegal, to be fair to them, big win, 4-point win over Tyrone. And, you know, Donegal, I'm sure you spoke to most Donegal fans. They were maybe a little bit worried about potentially going into a relegation battle this year. But looking at the remaining fixtures as well, I think they'll be looking upwards now rather than over their shoulder.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose the main aim for Donegal is to get to an All-Ireland semi-final. Like Gooch even mentioned on League Sunday last night, they haven't got to one since 2014. But this is a good result to get, like, to beat the All-Ireland champions. I think Patrick Sharkey put out something, of course, from GAA's own. They've beaten, I think, Tyrone 5 times over the last 8 attempts, or some statistic like that anyway. It's a brilliant statistic to have, considering Tyrone won the All-Ireland. But whereas Tyrone won the All-Ireland last year, I think Donegal will be kicking themselves at the same time, because they had Tyrone's number over the last few years and Saturday night as well, and they haven't got over the line even to the last 4. So that'll be a main aim for Donegal in the next few years. There's some big positives for Donegal, even their scoring throughout the team. They're not just relying on Michael Murphy or Paddy McBrearty. They have Conor O'Donnell, who I think has been one of the players of the league so far. He's won 9 from play. I think who else? So Pater Morgan, in fairness, he isn't scoring as much, but in fairness, he's contributing very well. Oisin Gallen coming back into form, scoring a point late on against Tyrone. Jack McKelvey coming on and getting a goal to seal it. So there are players all over the team for Donegal. They have some very handy players there. I suppose it's all about putting it together and getting to an All-Ireland semi-final, because that'll be the main aim for Donegal. And look, it's shocking they haven't reached one since 2014. You would have thought it would have been sooner, but geez, like 2014, they last reached a semi-final with them players at your disposal, and I think 3 Ulster titles in that point as well. Maybe 2, I could be getting carried away there, but and to beat Tyrone as much as they have, like, you'd expect at least one semi-final. They haven't done that, and that'll be a main aim for Declan Bonner this year, I would think, to get to that semi-final, to get over the line, and to definitely improve this year. As for Tyrone, as we stated, the league running, they might be a bit worried looking at their fixtures. They have the team, no doubt about that. Dublin, they'd probably beat them, considering what form Dublin are in. But Mayo and Kerry, the last two, that puts a load of pressure on the Dublin game at the same time to get a win. Like, you would expect Mayo and Kerry, the form there, to beat Tyrone at the moment. But yeah, I suppose Tyrone's main aim is All-Irelands. They'll try to get to a semi-final, even further than that. Donegal, like so many times over the last few years, Donegal peak at the start of the year, peak at the start of the Ulster Championship, and then they go down ever since then. Hopefully, for their sake, it doesn't happen again. But they'll have to rectify that wrong now this year and get to that semi-final, break that duck. But it was a good win, good start on Saturday night.
Yeah, like the addition of Conor O'Donnell, Shane O'Donnell, Jason McGee, and Oisin Gallen coming off the bench as well. Like, and when they have Michael Murphy, they definitely do have a bit more variation in their play, I think, when he plays. So, and Michael Langan to come back in. So yeah, like things are a lot more positive maybe than we thought for Donegal. And interesting enough, they do play Armagh in the final league game in Ballybuffet, and then they obviously played them again a couple of weeks later in that Ulster Championship game. So it is interesting, and I imagine there'll be a lot of shadow boxing there, and especially if both teams are clear of relegation and both teams are not in with a chance of getting to a league final, you could definitely see a lot of rotation, and maybe both teams will play second string teams or something of that regard. But in terms of Tyrone, I mean, it's a disappointing defeat for them, and you mentioned there their fixtures are tough. Like, you would fancy them to beat Dublin, especially with it being at Healy Park and given Dublin's poor form at the minute, and that should be enough for them to avoid relegation. They realistically probably only need one more win, I think. But is there much worry there, like in terms of Tyrone? Like, they obviously just one win in their opening 4 games, and could there be a bit of a hangover this year, do you think, in terms of their of defending that All-Ireland crown?
I suppose there is a bit of pressure on them. Like, in the first Ulster Championship game, let's not forget, they have Fermanagh, and Fermanagh have improved over the last weeks in Division 3, Sean Quigley hitting the lights out there. So maybe they could be going into the Tyrone game on form, and Tyrone maybe not so much. So that might be a worry going up against Fermanagh, who realistically look like a sticky team to beat. And Kieran Donnelly, a new manager there as well, new manager bounce. So that'll be a tough game. Even if they beat them, they have Derry. And even if they beat Derry, they have Monaghan. So that's a very tough run-in for Tyrone. That'll be a bit of a worry, especially if they end the league on a sour note by not doing so well against Dublin, Mayo and Kerry. Like, that'll be a disastrous situation for Tyrone to be in then. But if they get through it, they won't give an iota, they won't complain, they'll get to the Ulster final and possibly challenge for the All-Ireland then. But I suppose that's another thing that Tyrone fans will probably be worried about. The last 3 games are always going to be tough. Then they have the Ulster Championship, another 3 tough games, and the 4th, obviously, the Ulster final as well. So they'll have a tough run-in rather than the likes of Mayo, who maybe have 1 game against Galway, Kerry, who have no tough games until they get to Croke Park. So that will kind of be a worry. Maybe their players will get a few injuries. That might be a problem for Tyrone going down the home stretch. And that was a worrying performance against Donegal. You would have thought Tyrone would have targeted that game, considering their last 3 games, to try and get a win. They didn't get that. So maybe there's a bit of pressure on that Tyrone team now. They're kind of going in under the radar, considering people aren't tipping them really to go down. They're all looking towards Dublin and Monaghan, but they are looking towards Tyrone's fixtures. That might be a main thing to maybe send Tyrone down. And yeah, they should stay up. Look at the talent of their team. They're all the champions for a reason. But look at the fixtures in the last few. I wouldn't be so confident as a Tyrone fan.
Yeah, they do also play Mayo at home as well, following on from the Dublin game. So they do have 2 of those 3 games at home, and the record at Healy Park, obviously down the years, has been very good. And they beat Dublin the last time out at Healy Park. I think they beat Mayo as well. So I mean, they will take a lot of confidence from that, and I definitely don't think they should be written off in terms of the All-Ireland big picture, because you've seen what they've done last year, and they're a team that definitely can improve, can get better. And I think as long as they do avoid relegation, which I think they will do, I think things will be good for them going into the Ulster Championship. And I know a lot of people have tipped Derry to turn them over in that potential game in Ulster if it does happen. I don't know. I still think that's a bit premature, and I still think Tyrone have enough quality to get past Derry. But it'll definitely be an interesting game when that one comes around. We'd Monaghan 112, Kerry 314, and we'd a comment coming in there. Monaghan were poor yesterday, worried for our Division 1 status. Now Kerry looked excellent, defensively solid, and have special talent up front, is what Kid Cuddy says there. What are your thoughts there on that result? I mean, damning for Monaghan, poor result, poor performance, but for Kerry, it's another very comfortable win in Division 1. I mean, they're making light work of this division at the minute.
They are, in fairness, and they look as if they're all-Ireland champions made already. And I suppose Kerry were superb. Don't get that twisted. David Clifford so far scored 3-8 from play in the league. Like, as ridiculous numbers. Sean O'Shea, superb as well. And they should be credited for that. But the other side of the coin, Monaghan, by the looks of the highlights anyway, they were an absolute mess, especially in the second half. Like, the second goal, like, that was basic. Like, Rory Beggan coming out of the goal. You would have thought maybe two cornerbacks or the fullback would have gone into goal. But no, they left David Clifford with a run on goal. Like, you'd expect that defending in the likes of Division 3 and Division 4, not Division 1. Like, that was just, it was shooting yourself in the foot. Like, I know Monaghan were trying to get back into the game desperately, but you've just lost it all once you lose the ball around the middle of the field. And look, Rory Beggan's a very good goalkeeper doing that sort of thing. And he's very confident, and we see it in the past, he's a very good goalkeeper doing it. But when it goes wrong, it goes terribly wrong. And unfortunately, Kerry had the nose to figure Monaghan out at them situations and punish them dearly. And David Clifford, Sean O'Shea were having field days. Paddy Clifford had another good game as well. Tony Brosnan was excellent with 3 points from play. Yeah, job done for Kerry. Superb win, and in skied as well. Could have been a banana skin for Kerry. A few people tipped it as banana skin, but Kerry again made light work of it. They're doing what Dublin have done over the last few years and just rolling teams over. But I think it's more Monaghan's poor performance, in all honesty. And look at that performance. If they perform like that for the rest of the league, they could even finish last below Dublin, in my opinion. They look in rag order, and even the goals they conceded were an absolute mess. But I suppose a negative thing for Kerry, they mentioned in League Sunday the defence as well. Jack O'Connor would have been very disappointed conceding that penalty towards the end. They kind of still haven't solved that issue at full back. Dylan Casey, I think, was playing yesterday now. So maybe you need to bet him in to excel in that position. And it will take time, maybe the last few games before they get it right. But the signs are there for Kerry. Stephen O'Cumber also has come back in as soon as his arm is getting better. So there are positive signs defensively and offensively for Kerry, but for Monaghan, rag order, especially yesterday. No doubt about it.
Yeah, like you see with goalkeepers sometimes, and you've seen Aaron O'Neill, obviously, for Kildare at times, was almost taking the mick out of Dublin at times, the way he was just venturing forward and doing all sorts of craziness, really. And yeah, like I think there has to be a plan B there, though, doesn't there? Like when these goalkeepers are coming out and all the rest, because fair enough, when it works brilliantly and it looks good and there's a lot of praise. And I know Rory Beggan was almost playing full forward a couple of weeks ago. I think when Monaghan played Armagh, he ended up scoring a point, and it was, or it may have been against Tyrone, but it was extraordinary stuff, really. And you don't really see that too often. But it is one of them things as well, that when Beggan's coming out with a ball, or whether it's Noel Morgan, or whether it's Aaron O'Neill, or even Evan Comerford, whoever it may be, like surely there has to be more of a game plan there in terms of someone covering the goal. And usually there is sometimes, but yeah, it is quite mad, because like it's playing with fire in many ways. You're just one bad pass, you're one bad move away from it all going bad. And you seen even in that Kildare game, for example, when Aaron O'Neill lost the ball and Dublin had a chance, and Dublin decided just to hand pass it around and could have kicked long. Like a lot of teams don't often take advantage of it, but you're seeing like when it does go wrong, like it's such a risk, really, a risk reward, I suppose you could say.
Yeah, I suppose it's about the opposition team capitalising on it as well. Like Dublin didn't really against Kildare. Kerry did it expertly against Monaghan. Even Cork the other night against Galway, Conor Flaherty for Galway kept coming out with the ball and he kept getting tackled in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. Cork just didn't take advantage of it enough, in my opinion. But Kerry are a kind of team that do it expertly. If you do it against Kerry, that's almost suicidal. With the forwards they have, with the passers they have in the team. And as soon as Monaghan lost the ball there, you could just see what was going to happen. And it is a huge risk. Like, you have to get it right. You even see the Derry goalkeeper getting it right week in, week out with their league games. And he's an expert at it, in all fairness. Roy Beggins, in fairness to him, has been an expert at it over the last few years. So is Niall Morgan for Tyrone. But when, as you rightly said there, if it goes badly wrong, it just looks terrible, and it's just a terrible goal to concede, and so avoidable as well. Like even the most basic things as well. If the goalkeeper comes out venturing, you have to put a defender back on the line to, protect the goal. A bit like what Cork hurlers were doing a few years ago when Anthony Ashe was venturing forward, and then I think they put Shane O'Neill in goal. You still have to do that. It's not an old tactic. It's common sense. Like, if Kerry are going to kick the ball long and then it's 2-on-1, Sean O'Shea, David Clifford on Monaghan's number 2, there's only going to be one winner there. And Kerry, it was a field day for him attacking wise yesterday. And as you rightly said there, if it goes badly wrong, it goes badly wrong. Another thing with Aaron O'Neill as well, I'm sure you saw this in Newbridge yesterday as well. A sideline ball coming in and just drifted over the head of Aaron O'Neill. He didn't know much about it. Like, that was a bit strange as well. Like, you have to wonder, yes, goalkeeping is to an all new level, and you have to be, a kind of an outfielder to play. But at the same time, you have to do the basics correct as well to be a goalkeeper. And I suppose that's what makes Cluxton so great for Dublin. He knew when to come out, he knew when to pass the ball, he knew when to distribute, and he knew when to stay on his line. A few of them goalkeepers, few newer breed goalkeepers, don't seem to get that logic, in my opinion.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I think, yeah. I mean, a huge win, no doubt about it, from a Kerry point of view, and damning for Monaghan. And I was just looking at the fixtures there for Monaghan as well. Like, I mean, it is a tough fixture list for them. Like, to go away to Donegal, away to Kildare, and looking at Kildare's record in Newbridge at the minute, drew with Kerry, beat Dublin. I think the fans there will be bang up for that one as well. And then obviously home to Dublin. And yes, fair enough, they have a good record against Dublin in recent years, but it is worth remembering a lot of those times Dublin had already wrapped up a league final, or their season was pretty much over at that point in the league. Like, there was no relegation worries or anything like that. They were either middle of the pack or already in a league final, and a lot of the time they went on to win the league anyway. So, it is probably worth mentioning that. But what are your thoughts then, Monaghan? Do you think they're going down?
I think so, yeah. Like, they've got away with it for so many years. Like, you even think 2016 they should have gone down instead of maybe Cork. Like, it was Mayo, Monaghan and Cork all at 6 points in 2016. Cork were the ones to get relegated despite beating Monaghan and Mayo. Not salty about that whatsoever, like, considering what happened the next few years, but they were lucky that year. They were lucky last year. I don't know how Galway went down and Monaghan stayed up. It was almost Dave versus Goliath for most of the game, and then Jack McCarron turns up and turns Galway over. But I think it's about time that Monaghan get relegated. They've been riding out their luck for a few years now, and I think this is the year, unfortunately, for Monaghan fans. They have to succumb to Division 2 relegation. It was a good run while it lasted. They are a county that make good on their resources, in fairness to them, but it is about time they go down. Like, they've been so lucky for years now.
Yeah, and they might still do it. Like, it's not impossible, the fact they have them 2 draws. I'd much rather be in Monaghan's position at the minute than Dublin's position, I'll tell you that, with 2 points on the board rather than absolutely nothing. And although they showed very little fight in this game, they did show a lot of fight in the other games to get those draws. So not exactly impossible that they don't stay up. Moving on to Division 2, I suppose we'll start with your own county, Cork. I mean, you'd see this score and you'd think it's nearly a hurling score in many ways. I mean, Cork 217, Galway 322. I mean, I still don't know why this game wasn't shown on Allianz League Sunday. Absolutely baffling that we didn't get to see anything from this game at all, given the fact that it was so high score and there were so many goals. And like, this, probably, you were at the game, so I'd say this was probably what, game of the week, surely. Like,
it probably was, to be honest. It was a great occasion to be there. Like, 2 attacking teams, no defensive crap or whatsoever. Both teams going for it. And I suppose Galway are kind of in a situation like us. They play nice football when there's no sweepers or whatsoever, but they can't defend either. Like, there was a bit of that as well. Poor defending, great attacking. Like, even from the start, Blake Murphy gets a goal in the first minute, and you're thinking, geez, you didn't expect that in the first minute, but then back to old same Cork, could see the penalty. Shane Walsh converts it, and Galway right back in the game. But in fairness, Galway went 4 or 5 points up going down the home stretch in the first half. Cork actually came back into the game with points from Blake Murphy, John O'Rourke. I think Ty Corkery scored a belter of a point as well to get them level at halftime, 112 to 112. And you're thinking then Galway are on the ropes here. Like, they haven't been on the ropes throughout the league. But then, look, Shane Walsh, Damien Comer turn on the style. And helped by the fact Sean Meehan went off injured as well. He was the glue for Cork. Hopefully it won't be a long injury for him. And look, Galway cut us through like a bread to butter or knife to butter. And look, it was one-way traffic from them. But what I will say, in the last few minutes, Cork got two crucial scores that could define points difference towards the end. Daniel O'Connell with a goal and Rory Maguire with an 8 point. That reduced the margin to 8 points. Considering the beating Down got and Meath got against Galway, that wasn't a bad thing either. And it was a good performance. We're going into the last 3 games against rivals now. It's in our own hands. There's no one else to blame except ourselves if we go down. But that was a much more positive performance than the performance against Derry. But the worry is we performed poorly against Roscommon. Bit of an improvement against Clare. Terrible performance against Derry, brilliant performance against Galway despite the 8 point loss. It's all about following it up now against Meath. It's crucial that we win that game. And Meath will be up for that game, no doubt about it. And look, Galway are a better team. They'll go up to Division 1 again. To be honest, Galway shouldn't be in Division 2. Like, in my opinion, they're all our contenders, considering the teams there. And two more words in the game. Shane Walsh, one of the best players in the country, 2-7 again. Outstanding player, and I think he's a bit underrated compared to the likes of Rian O'Neill and David Clifford. Maybe the fact he's playing in Division 2 this year. And another thing, just away from the match as well, the match programme was an absolute disgrace. I know it was a brilliant spectacle from the game, Galway and Cork, but the programme at the start, the Cork County Board actually printed the team from Derry last week. It caused confusion in the media, confusion in the fans, confusion for the players as well, who had to wear different jerseys to what they were given on Friday night before the game. So, it was a mess there, and hopefully that'll be rectified over the next few years. Apparently it happens in other counties as well. That's the first time I've come across it in Cork, and hopefully it just gets rectified soon, because it was an absolute joke what happened in that regard on Saturday. But other than that, the football was entertaining, and it was a shame that Allianz League Sunday didn't show it. It was a shame it wasn't on GAA Go or TG Car Play or any of them streaming services.
Yeah, like it's 2 big counties as well, like 2 big counties with population, history, all the rest in terms of winning all Irelands, and 2 big fan bases. So it definitely is surprising that they didn't show any of it at all. It was a bit like the Galway and Meath game. They didn't show any of that. Like it is quite strange. Danny Allen says they're enjoying this conversation between the 2 lads here. Good quality GAA analysis compared to the awful League Sunday on RTE. Well, look, Danny, I appreciate the support anyway, and if you could hit the like button as well, helps the channel grow, and appreciate all the comments coming in there as well. Much appreciated. Definitely helps with these podcasts in terms of interaction and all the rest. And Gavin O'Reilly said also baffling how little the games this weekend were on TV. TG4 Cahir, I should say, BBC Northern Ireland or RTE or GAA Go would have loved to seen Mayo versus Armagh. And that's the point, isn't it? Because last year Air Sport were showing a lot of the games as well, and they lost their rights this year, and it doesn't seem like anyone else has really filled in that spot. So a little bit mad. But going back to what you were saying about the Cork match programme, like I remember when Dublin were playing Kerry there a couple of weeks ago, it was something similar where Con O'Callaghan and James McCarthy were named to start and then weren't even in the squad. And they obviously brought in a new rule there where the teams have to announce their teams, I think 2 days prior now, I think it is. And we're seeing like so many counties aren't abiding by that whatsoever. So, I mean, it's crazy really. Like, is there much reason, do you think, for the likes of Cork and these counties not announcing their team properly? Or is it just a breakdown in communication, or are teams doing this on purpose? I mean, what do you think?
I honestly think it was a breakdown in communication, because it was actually the same lineup that happened on Friday night, except players were wearing different numbers. John O'Rourke, for example, was wearing 24. Stephen Sherlock was full forward wearing number 13. Sean Meehan was centre back wearing number 3. And Billy Hennessy was cornerback wearing number 6. It was confusing, to say the least. I honestly think it was a miscommunication, but for a main county like Cork to mess it up this badly on a match programme, and Galway team, the Limerick team in the Camogie, the Cork team in the Camogie was absolutely fine. And to mess it up on one page was a disgrace, in all honesty. And it caused confusion with stats keepers like myself, scorekeepers, media, the fans as well. The players, even before the game, were given different jerseys to what they were promised on Friday night. Like, it was an absolute mess, and I think it was miscommunication, or the PRO decided to print the program against Derry, or whatever the situation was in fairness. Even David Buckley and Brian Hurley were on the panel on the program, and they weren't on the panel at all against Galway. So tells you all you need to know about the missing situation. It's happened so many times, even with Dublin and Kerry. I see it happen to Clare over the last few weeks as well. And you would have thought with the rule coming in, it would have changed, but it clearly hasn't. I suppose we should really be talking about the program, because that's no fault of the players, it's fault of the people around. But the match itself was brilliant, and I know I said on the channel last week that we lose by 20 points. Maybe a bit of exaggeration looking back on it, but an 8-point loss isn't bad. It isn't bad. Galway should be in Division 1. Will improve for the next few weeks now, and hopefully we'll stay up, because we definitely have the players to do so. Stephen Sherlock, over the last 2 games now, he scored 15 points, 5 from play. Superb from him. Blake Murphy, 1-5 from play. And I suppose it is a shame, looking at the streaming services as well, that we aren't seeing the excellence of the likes of Sam Ryan in Division 3, Blake Murphy in Division 2, Shane Walsh in Division 2, Emmett McMahon in Division 2, Garrett McKieran in the Division 4. He's a disgrace in his own way, and we have to rectify that. There has to be a way to show these games on television. Like, only Roscommon and Down was shown in Division 2. Like, even the likes of Offaly and Meath, I would have liked to see that game. I know it wasn't the most entertaining, but there was a controversial incident towards the game. I wouldn't want to see that for analysis for today's podcast here, but there was none of that. And, it is a disgrace in its own right. And I suppose Virgin Media should really show GAA games. Like, they're showing AFLW, I'm sure. So there's no reason they should show games. So it is a disgrace that these players aren't getting the recognition they deserve. And it has to be fixed sooner rather than later, or else, like, players are just going to lose interest and go abroad or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Thomas Gallagher was saying there as well, LGFA stream all games and upload to YouTube. The GAA could do it, but seem to prefer fans going to games, even though it isn't possible for everyone. And yeah, like, I understand you want to get fans to games. That's absolutely fine and all the rest. But, maybe they could upload some of the games, upload the highlights, for example. I don't see why they couldn't do that. I think, you're seeing the likes of Sky Sports and all the rest, and some other big, major broadcasters and other sports uploading highlights of their games. And I understand you can't get cameras in every game. That's fair enough. You're not going to get, you're not going to be able to show every game, but don't see why they couldn't at least show highlights, upload them to YouTube, all the rest. It would be a lot better for the fans, because it is, as you said, like, it's very hard for fans to go to every game, especially for Galway fans traveling to Cork. That's a long drive up and back. Like, was there even many Galway fans there? I'd say there probably wasn't even that many, was there?
There was a few, all right. They were shouting for Shane Walsh and Damien Cork. There was actually a few, all right, but there'd honestly be more Galway fans if it was an earlier game, maybe a 2:00 game. A 5:00 game is early enough in its own right, but even for a 7:00 game in Croke Park, I know we're going back to Dublin again, but this has happened over the last few years, where Donegal are travelling to Croke Park in the next few weeks. Mayo travelled to Croke Park as well in the last few weeks. Kerry did in the last few years, travelling at a 7:00 throw-in. Like, that in its own way, the GAA have to fix that, and there isn't going to be much fans as a result. And this was even more of a disgrace, in all honesty, considering the game wasn't even shown on GAA Go, and because the Camogie was shown on YouTube. So there was no reason why this game couldn't have been shown. Like, the Camogie was actually shown live. There was no highlights or anything. It was live coverage on the Camogie's YouTube channel. And going back to the LGFA, they're the prime example. Like, they have Pen the Mambio. They have every game streamed. You have to pay a $5, but still, it's going to be streamed. And it's a brilliant service. The match programs for the LGFA, they announce the teams, and 1 to 15 are going to be playing by hook or by crook. So there's a lot the GAA could actually learn from the LGFA. I know people will say, ladies football, this is the best quality, men's football, this and that. But LGFA, looking at preparation for the games, with streaming services, with match programs, the LGFA are ahead of the GAA at the moment. Like, you wouldn't have said that a few years ago. And yeah, they need to get their streaming sorted, they need to get their program sorted, and they need to get it sorted sharpish, because if the LGFA can do it, the GAA can. And I suppose, I think Darragh O'Connor said it, or maybe it was in your channel from the Sideline View or someone else's channel, maybe the GAA are a bit too stubborn over the last few years to follow example from the LGFA, but they have to bite their teeth now and bite their tongue and just follow the LGFA's example, because it's a brilliant way to show games, to show clarity to the fans, and ultimately to have a good spectacle and show some brilliant players the recognition they deserve, definitely.
No, I agree, absolutely, yeah. Like, no reason why they can't do that. Like, and I suppose we'll finish up chatting about this game, just looking at the league table there. I mean, obviously in the bottom two at the minute there for Cork, but as you said there, like, I think your final three games are down, Offaly and Meath in whatever order there. So, I mean, you'd be looking at that, and would you fancy your chances to avoid relegation?
We're playing Down at home, and Down don't seem to score, so I definitely fancy our chances then. We're playing Offaly at Tullamore, so that'll be a tough game in its own right, but we should get over them. Meath will be a crucial game, because Meath will be well up for that game. Like, Meath's last three games are actually Cork, I think, Clare and Derry. They won't expect to get anything out of Clare and Derry, so they will target us. That's the next game, actually, in Partalton. That'll be a very interesting game. And look, one of these two sides, one of these All-Ireland greats over the last few years could go down to Division 3, and this could be the game to decide who goes down. And we'll definitely be looking for, if it is shown, of course, I don't know, will it be even shown on TV? It's a joke at this stage, but this will be a crucial game. But I'd be quietly confident. I wasn't confident over the last few weeks, but considering I looked at our stats, we've 15 scores. Maybe that's not a good sign. It's a bit of both good sign and bad sign. It's a good sign because a lot of players are contributing to the scoring. Maybe a lot of players aren't getting as high tallies, but even if you look further into it, Sherlock, Blake Murphy and Brian Hurley, when they're fit, they can fire points from every angle. And look at the other teams around us in the relegation battle, they're averaging, I think, 10 different scores. We have 15. So that's an advantage there. I suppose to bring into it, we'll get on to Meath later. Apparently, they were very lucky to get a draw against Offaly, and they've been lucky over the last few games to get even 2 points. So, I'd be quietly confident, but at the same time, our performances over the last few weeks have been very inconsistent, and we have to keep the likes of Sean Meehan. Well, I was hearing Sean Powler is injured for the next few weeks. That'll be a big blow for Cork. Sean Meehan maybe could be injured in the next few weeks. I hope to God he's injured, because we've seen over the game against, I think, Roscommon, we missed him dearly. Against Clare, we missed him dearly. And in the last few minutes against Galway, we got hammered. So, we need him in the team, and we need to start Brian Hurley, Stephen Sherlock and Blake Murphy all in the same team as well. And even Mark Cronin, who's shown some glimpses. So we need to start them players, go all out and survive ultimately in this division. And we could go in relaxing into the Sam Maguire Cup without danger going down to the Taunton Cup.
Yeah, and Thomas Gallagher says there as well, just to finish up on that topic, also need different shows for football and hurling, and I'd agree with that as well. Like, if they could make that work, that'd be brilliant. Maybe a football show on a Sunday, hurling show on a Monday, or vice versa. Whatever's happened, whatever's been more significant on the weekend, they could do it in different ways. You mentioned there Offaly and Meath, and there was definitely a bit of controversy here, like a dramatic late goal from Joey Wallace, I think it was, to rescue the draw in the end for Meath. I mean, could be a huge point looking at the end of the season. I know I don't think Meath would have been happy with a draw before this game, but when you look at the context of it, Offaly would have had another point on the board then. They would have had 2 points, and they would have been gaining momentum. Whereas Meath, with a tough fixture list, probably the tougher fixture list really going into the last couple of games, they obviously have 2 points on the board now themselves. So a bit of a psychological twist. But, I mean, from what we've heard anyway, a bit of a controversial finish.
And again, I would love to see that in League Sunday. I'll definitely tune into TG Carr if that game, of course, is shown in that to see what exactly happened. But according to a few Offaly fans, they were robbed. I don't know the full situation. I was seeing it on the scoreboard. I saw Noel McNamee put them ahead to make it 110 to 10 points. They were going into additional time. They were all set for the win. and then Joey Wallace scores the goal. Apparently, there was some controversy. I'm not sure what the situation exactly was, so I won't speak too much about it in a way, but if it was a situation where Offaly are robbed, it's a crucial point for Meath and could be a crucial point in maybe relegating Offaly, because next week Offaly play Galway. That could be a hammering, in all honesty, not because Offaly are particularly bad or anything. Galway are just miles ahead. So to get a win here for Offaly, that would have been so crucial for them surviving, but alas, no. Joey Wallace gets the late goal, and I suppose Meath would be disappointed. I know they had to come back in the last 2 games, but you would have expected them to beat Offaly, especially at home, and only a short drive down to Offaly to Tullamore to get 4 points on the board. Instead, they've got 2. And now that Cork game in Partalton is a big, big game for them. There's huge pressure on them to win that game. Like, I'd be confident actually as a Cork fan, because there's no pressure on us going into the game. All the pressure's on Meath. If they manage to mess up this game now in Partalton, they could be staring down the barrel of Division 3, because their next 2 games after that are against Clare and Derry. I honestly don't see Meath getting... they could get a point maybe, but that maybe be about it. So, look, it's terrible times for Meath despite getting that late goal. Look, according to some Offaly fans, the performance was positive, but a negative toward the end. To drop a point like that and to drop it in them circumstances as well would have been absolutely gut-wrenching for the faithful county.
Yeah, and just to quote Andy McEntee, what he said in his post-match interview, he said, you have 5 clear-cut goal chances in a game and you don't take any, and then you scramble a goal that you probably shouldn't get. So, even he's admitting it there, that it was probably a goal that shouldn't have been given. So, yeah, it'd be interesting if there were any Meath fans at that game or anything, or Offaly fans. Like, feel free to let us know in the comments down below what it was. I heard it was a punched goal, so I don't really know what the controversy would be surrounding that. Thomas Gallagher says Meath have history for controversial goals. They certainly do. Against other Leinster counties who happen to be close to them. But in the end, yeah, finishing in a draw. I suppose moving on, Clare 10 points, Derry 2-13. Very comprehensive win for Derry. I mean, this is probably their toughest game so far on paper. Maybe you could say, going away to a Clare team that have done very well so far. They've been unbeaten, I think, in their opening 3 games. So to go away and win so comprehensively, very good stuff for the Derry men.
Yeah, superb win for Derry. And I suppose Derry beating Clare by 2 points or 9 points away from home, and Derry beating Cork by 9 points at home. We didn't play it particularly well. So maybe there's a positive for us there as well, that maybe just Derry are a superb team and we have to accept that, and they're going on the way to Division 1. Disappointing for Clare, but a brilliant win for Derry. I heard Garth McKinless was very good. Emmett Bradley, Benny Hearn scored another goal. Shane McGuigan is instrumental as always. Noel Loughlin performed well. So some very good performance for Derry, and this would have been definitely their acid test. They passed it in flying colours, going down to Cusack Park to get 2 points on the board and to beat Clare by 9 points. Job done, really. Superb achievement from Derry. They are the coming team now. It'll be interesting to see Derry Galway now, because Galway are kind of the attacking team. Derry are kind of the conservative team, a bit like most Ulster teams. So that'll be a very interesting game. Will Derry sit back and go down on the counter-attack, or what will be the story there? But they've Meath, Roscommon and Galway in the last 3 games in no particular order, of course. So they'll be 3 interesting games to see where Derry are actually at. So, brilliant win for Derry, and disappointment for Clare in another game which really should have been shown on Allianz League Sunday as well. Like, 2 teams are the top half of Division 2. Like, why there wasn't a Canberra here either is ridiculous. But at the same time, brilliant win for Derry, and Clare have to lick their wounds and go again the next day.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, looking at that league table, we'll throw it up on the screen there as well. You can see the top teams there. I mean, is promotion gone for Clare, do you think? Do they still have an outside chance, or like it's going to be tough for them, I suppose, going into the final couple of games?
Yeah, I'd say promotion's gone, in all honesty. Like, yeah, they did well to be in a promotion race, in all honesty, at this point in the league. And a 3rd time in a row they've been in a promotion race. So fair play to Clare. And by that, their Galway really will be on 8 points when the league, when the week ends. They'll play Offaly at home, so they'll get 8 points there. So it'll be Derry, Galway, Roscommon, Very good fight there between them three teams. I'm not sure what the fixtures are in order. I know Derry are playing Roscommon and Galway in their last few games. They're playing I think they're playing Roscommon next game. So that'll be a game, if it is, of course, to decide who goes up with Galway. I think Galway are way too good for Division 2, as shown on Saturday night. Damien Comer hitting form, Shane Walsh again, Robert Finnerty outstanding, and Luke Porrick-Joyce seems to get a tune out of those players that they really should be Division 1 and will be aiming for Mayo as well. So Derry Roscommon will be the game, I think, to decide who will go up. It depends really who's at home. I'm not entirely sure who's at home there, but it'll be a very interesting game there, and I think Derry might win the game. I think they'll definitely win the game if it's at home, but if it's at the Hyde, Roscommon will fancy their chances and may the best team win there. It seems to be a very good promotion race between the best three teams undoubtedly in Division 2 this year. Clare, middle of the road, the top three way ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it is mad, right, as well, like looking at Division 2 there. Like, I mean, you have 4 teams all without a win, and you've actually got a lot of those teams all playing each other now in the next couple of games. So I think Division 2 is going to be very interesting. Like, Derry still have to play Roscommon, Galway. Galway still have to play, obviously, Derry, Roscommon, up there as well. So it's going to be very interesting to keep an eye on Division 2. We'll run through Division 3 with Louth 115, Westmeath 130. And I mean, a big turnaround from Louth. I mean, they started the league a little bit slow. You were maybe thinking they're going to be in a bit of a relegation battle, but a big win over at Westmeath, who are probably the favourites to get promoted in Division 3, and a lot of people would probably still have them as a team to go up there. But this was a huge win for Louth over a county as well that I've heard they don't really have a particularly great record against. So huge win for Louth.
Brilliant win for Louth, and obviously it was Sam Mulroy and what's his name, John Heslin show, and superb forwards that day, and brilliant win for Louth. 2 brilliant wins on the bounce against 2 promotion challengers, Westmeath and Limerick. So fair play to Mickey Hart now. They seem to be improving week on week, and maybe they could be in a late promotion chart. Fair play to them. As for Westmeath, they're kind of under a bit of pressure now in the next few games. They kind of got lucky in the first game against Wicklow, and now they've lost the game against Louth. Maybe the pressure will be on Jack Cooney and his players, because that was a hard one to take there. But outstanding win for Louth. They're definitely amongst the promotion favourites now. And let's not forget, I know Sam Mulroy, rightly so, will get praise, but Kieran Byrne, throughout the league campaign, 1-5 from play. Very good player as well. I'm sure he's come from Australia recently, so very good player there. Louth seem to be having a good team together, not just Sam Mulroy, despite him scoring, I think, 129 so far in the league. So very good win for Louth. Very good 2 wins in a row, in fairness. But Westmeath might be a bit of pressure on them going down the home stretch.
Yeah, I mean, and they do have a game in hand, obviously, coming up as well, which I believe is against Longford, which we'll get onto them in a minute. But huge win for Louth, 115 to 113, and I mean, fair play to Mickey Hart. I mean, after a struggling start, you were a little bit worried for them, obviously coming up from Division 4, but I think it does show really with the 2 teams that have come up from Division 4 that really probably the gap in Division 3 and 4 isn't so much. Like Laois 1-8, Antrim 1-8, and this was a very close game as well. Like obviously a dramatic late point from Antrim in this game as well to secure the draw. So, we'll get the Division 3 table up there in a minute, but it really is all to play for. Like you're looking at these 2 counties as well. You're looking at Westmeath, Louth, Limerick. I mean, they're all really in with a show here.
It's definitely the most competitive division this year other than Division 1. It's an absolutely brilliant division to look at. Like, you could easily get relegated, you could easily get promoted. It's like 2020 for Division 2, in all fairness. Like, Antrim, good result for them, going down to Port Laois, getting a point. And, Laois will be disappointed with that result, but I suppose Antrim are going in with a bit more form than Laois at the moment. So, Laois, at the start of the game, you would have taken a draw, but by the end of the game, you'd be gutted. It's that kind of a feeling. But these 2 sides will be up there for promotion again, but easily these 2 sides could also be dragged into a relegation. It's that tight in the Division 3 at the moment. So, good withdrawal for Antrim. Laois should be a bit disappointed. Like, a few good players there. Mark Barry, Evan O'Carroll playing well for Laois. Antrim, very good performances. Like Rory McCann, Kevin Small throughout the league campaign. So, both sides will be relatively happy with the draw, but relatively disappointed at the same time in the chase for promotion.
Yeah, and then you had Longford 110 for Mana 3-11. Huge win for Fermanagh, who take themselves out of the relegation zone. Very comfortable win in the end after obviously a difficult start. And from a Longford point of view, I mean, it's looking worrying for them. I mean, they've been a team that's kind of been, on the upward trend in Division 3 for a while, but obviously they just about narrowly avoided relegation last year, and you're looking at it now and you're thinking it's going to be tough for them from here. I mean, they do have a game in hand, so we'll see how that goes, but that is against Westmeath, let's not forget, and it's away from home as well. So, but you're looking at it and thinking tough for Longford, but for Fermanagh, huge victory, and I suppose much needed for Kieran Donnelly's men.
And it might be the kick that Fermanagh need, in all fairness. And even Sean Quigley, he scored 3-9 so far or something like that. He is Fermanagh's main man and always has been, and a superb player as well. Another player that should get more recognition from streaming services up and down the country. It is a bit worried for Longford already. You would have thought there'd be a bounce with a new manager, Billy O'Loughlin, coming in, and you would have thought the young players would have gelled. They look kind of, good prospects. The likes of Oren Kenny, who I had on my podcast recently. Joseph Hagan looked very good for DCU with the Sigerson. You would have thought Longford would have put it together, but it doesn't seem that way so far, and they're involved in a relegation battle. Fermanagh, though, they're going in under the cosh. They could make a late promotion charge. Let's not forget, they have a game in hand as well, and I think it's against Laois in Brewster Park. A tough place to go for Laois, let's not forget. So that'll be a ding-dong battle as well. So, look, brilliant win for Fermanagh, and might be the kick that Kieran Donnelly needs. The first few games weren't that good for Fermanagh, but now it looks an upward trajectory for them. But for Longford, they're staring down the barrel of Division 4. It looks very worrying for them.
Yeah, and Jack Nolte, who's a Longford fan there, says relegation for us. Missing too many players doesn't help, but we were poor. And yeah, obviously you've no Rian Brady in there, and there's just from looking on the Scorpio app here as well, it looks like there's a plenty of new players in there that I wouldn't be too familiar with. You still have Mickey Quinn, Darren Gallagher, who scored 4 points, but Mickey Quinn sent off as well. Obviously, it doesn't help proceeding. So yeah, it'd be a tough one for Longford this year by the looks of things. And for Limerick, big win for them, 113 to 1-9. And Wicklow again, I mean, they are being competitive in this division. They might still go down, and they'd still be a team a lot of people would fancy to go down. But considering they've played a lot of the tough teams in this division already, I mean, there'll be a big positive there. And obviously, Billy Lee's Limerick, I mean, that was a big win for them. And I think they're we'll get the division table up there in a minute, but they're obviously standing top of that division at the minute. So, big praise for Limerick.
Huge praise once again, and once again they're not showing an Alliance League Sunday for the fourth week, or they were showing against Louth, but for 3 of those weeks they weren't even shown. It is a disgrace in that way. Limerick have been the most informed team. Colin Cooper could talk about them all they want, but you have to show them on League Sunday at the same time. But as for Limerick themselves, superb again. Josh Ryan being brilliant once again, Brian Donovan. They have a lot of scores throughout the team, scoring high tallies as well. The likes of James Naughton as well, Peter Nash, Hugh Burke has scored 1-8 from play, I believe. So that's a brilliant tally from him personally. But Billy Lee, huge credit has to go for him. Considering at the start of the year, they were without the likes of Danny Neville, Brian Fanning, a few of those players. I think one of the Childs brothers in midfield. Some colossal players going out of that team. And to be top of Division 3 at this point of the year, superb achievement from Limerick, and well done to Billy Lee and all. And maybe a Munster final might be on the horizon for Limerick, looking at the draw. I think they have to play, I think it's Watford or Tipp, I don't know who, but they're on the side of Tipp, Clare, Watford, and that side of the draw anyway. They're away from Cork and Kerry. So there is a possibility that Limerick could reach their first Munster final since 2010. And they could even, they're not going to be competitive. Kerry are probably going to win the All-Ireland, but to get to an Munster final and to win Division 3, get a trip up to Croke Park, that's mission accomplished for Limerick this year, and a brilliant achievement for them. And I don't think it's going to stop there if they get promoted. I think they have the strength and conditioning there. They have the players. They have the talent now. They have the manager. Billy Lee's an outstanding coach. They have the facilities. They could even go maybe even higher and top half of Division 2 and gradually Division 1 maybe. I genuinely think so. Limerick are a very good side. They're on the up, and they seem to be a very good side. And as you rightly said about Wicklow as well, fair play to them. They're competitive in every game. They probably should have beaten Westmeath the first day out. And on the other day, they could have beaten Limerick here as well. They have a few scores themselves. Dee Healy's hitting the lights out for them. Owen Darcy's doing well. So they have some very good scores in their team as well. If there's enough fight in them, I think they might have enough to survive. Maybe they could. They're definitely playing better than Longford anyway. So there is positives for them. The performances wise, not maybe the results, but brilliant win for Limerick. But Wicklow, there's reasons to be optimistic going into the future. Like last 3 games will all hinge on them.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you say about Limerick as well. I think I've said that on previous podcasts before as well. Like, I think people forget Paul Kinnerk, who's obviously heavily involved with the Limerick hurlers. Obviously, he's a part of John Coyley's backroom team and has been known very well for his innovation and tactics and hurling and all the rest. But people forget he also has an academy with the Limerick footballers down there, and he was a previous Limerick footballer himself. Like, he has a footballing background. So I know there's a lot of work really going in there with Limerick, and you're seeing some of that work has obviously been put into the hurlers in the last couple of years, but you're just slowly seeing the footballers gradually rise. And it does kind of remind me a little bit of the Dublin hurlers when they just started to rise a little bit in the background of when the Dublin footballers started to win All-Irelands in 2011 and 2013 and whatnot. But we'll see what happens. Obviously, a long way to go yet, and they're probably maybe just 1 or 2 maybe top-class forwards away from doing exactly that. We'll get the Division 3 table up on the screen there, as you can see. So you've got Limerick in first with 6 points, Antrim with 5 points, Louth with 5, Westmeath with 4. I mean, looking at that table, who would you be fancying from here to get promoted to Division 2?
Jesus, tough ass there. I think Fermanagh will actually beat Laois in the game in hand, so that'll put them up to 5 points. Westmeath should be good enough to beat Longford, so that'll be Westmeath and Limerick in the positions there. But Antrim, Louth and Fermanagh will be on the coattails of them teams. The form Louth are in, I'd actually maybe fancy Louth for promotion above Westmeath, actually. I think Westmeath are kind of thinking they're better than they are. I think Limerick will probably top the division and probably win Division 3. They're that kind of form at the moment. But Louth, the form they're in at the moment, I actually say Louth look very good for promotion indeed, and Westmeath will be looking over their shoulders a small bit, but it should be a very good battle for promotion there. And I suppose for relegation, you would have to say Longford and Wicklow. I wouldn't be surprised if Wicklow found a way to burr themselves out of relegation. Longford, it looks pretty bad at the moment, but again, the relegation battle looks pretty intriguing, considering if Laois managed to drop points against Fermanagh, they could be dragged into that as well. So, it's a very good fight in the Division 3. Definitely looking forward to that in the next few weeks. And hopefully a few more games will be shown more than there is so far in RT especially.
Yeah, we'll move on to Division 4 then. You had Tipperary 113, Sligo 1-9. A much needed first win of 2022 for Tipperary. We've obviously seen some of the highlights on Allianz League Sunday for this game. And Sligo, they'll be disappointed with this one because they were looking like they were going to be up there in a promotion battle. They've obviously got that game in hand against Cavan. Be a tough one to take for them. I mean, I don't think many people fancy them for promotion anyway, so I don't really know what Sligo people would necessarily feel about it. But for Tipperary, this was definitely a much needed win given some of the disappointing performances in the opening couple of weeks of Division 4.
Yeah, very good win for Tipperary. And I suppose the scores in that game as well, Conor Sweeney, I think, only got 3 or 4 points, and the rest of the team step up to the plate. So that was a definite positive for David Power. A bit disappointing for Sligo, considering they blitzed teams in the previous 2 weeks, especially that performance against Carlow. But I suppose that game against Cavan kind of halted their momentum. They might have performed well against Cavan and maybe gone into this game with a bit more confidence. But yeah, well done to Tipperary, brilliant win. I don't think they'll get promoted, but maybe this is a win to kind of kickstart their season, maybe to get in the run, maybe to a possible Munster final. They've cleared Limerick on that side. They definitely fancy their chances against those sides, especially if Kerry are not on that side. So I suppose very good win for Tipperary. The pleasing aspect is more players stepped up to the plate rather than only just Conor Sweeney. But Sligo, they have time to recover. I think they'll probably lose to Cavan next week. Cavan are too good for Division 4. But I think they're still in that promotion charge because London dropped points as well. We'll get on to them in a minute. But I'd still see positives in Sligo. Just a bit disappointing result there. But just before we leave this game as well, the Tipperary supporters were nothing short of a disgrace really on Saturday night. They were shouting for their team mad against Dublin on at 5 o'clock. Then once that game ends, you see the stream of supporters just going out of the stadium and just saying, oh, football is useless and all that. And there was a few situations with Cork against Clare a few weeks ago as well. That's not right, in all honesty. What kind of confidence is there for being a Tipperary footballer from winning? They won a Ulster Championship 2 seasons ago. Let's not forget that. And these fans should, credit their football team and credit David Power more than this. I think it was an absolute disgrace what happened. Like, if you're going to buy a ticket for that kind of money for an Alliance League game, and Tipperary, like, you're living in Nina or Kilkeel, Kilcash or anywhere, like, you think they'd stay until the last game is over, at least. Like, to leave before the football even started, was a disgrace, in all honesty. And maybe it highlights the problems and why Munster counties other than Kerry aren't as successful as they are in football, because they're just not getting the support they need at the moment. But good win for Tipperary, but disappointed about that towards the end.
Yeah, like, I did notice, all right, it was very empty seats, all right, and I actually forgot that game was actually right after the Dublin Tipperary hurling game. There definitely was a big crowd for that game. So yeah, I mean, obviously a lot of Tip fans would be, it is obviously a predominantly hurling county, and you can understand obviously for a lot of those fans maybe who just aren't really interested in football, and you'd say fair enough, it's Saturday evening and all the rest, so maybe you can understand it. But yeah, I suppose at the same time a little bit disappointing that those fans couldn't stick about and follow the team. I know sometimes that can happen with Dublin as well, but I know usually what they do is they put the hurlers on before the footballers. And I think that obviously means that a lot of people would come to watch the hurlers, maybe watch the second half or whatever, and then obviously watch the footballers, or a lot of people would go and watch the two. So yeah, a little bit disappointed, I suppose, in regards to that. And Thomas Gallagher says, not just football, Sambo McNaughton didn't have anything good to say about Tip fans and their attitude to Ulster hurling. Yeah, I suppose there is obviously a bit of controversy going on there at the minute, and I'm not going to delve too much into politics and everything else on this podcast here. But London 1-6, Wexford 11 points. Big win for Wexford. They obviously stunned London's I suppose fairy tale story. Definitely not out of the promotion race, but big win for Wexford. Obviously a first win for 2022 for them as well.
And if they get a run together, they could chance for promotion as well. Look, I think Cavan are miles ahead of everybody in Division 4, but the second place looks very interesting now. Like, Sligo losing to Tipperary really opens the door. London losing to Wexford definitely opens the door. Like, even Wexford, Tipperary are now on 3 points. Tipper are now on 3 points. Wexford are on 2. So it's a very interesting fight for second place there. But look, it had to come to an end for London eventually. But even 2-point loss, that isn't a bad thing at all. And Wexford have a few players coming up through the ranks, like Ben Brosnan's still there. John Tolbert is doing well throughout the league so far. Martin O'Connor's a player I'm impressed with at cornerback. So look, Wexford, good win for them, going all the way to London and getting that win. For London, disappointment. Liam Gavigan again scoring 1-1. I think in this game, a very good performance again by him personally. Or James Gallagher scored 1-1 and Liam Gavigan scored 3 or 4 points. And again, another good tally from both of them players. But London, it won't be a bad defeat at all, in my opinion. Like, I think they have to play Cavan in the last few games. It might be a tough fixture list, but who would have thought London would have won the first 3 games? Look, I think it's not a disappointment for London. The fact they got within 2 points, I think is a brilliant achievement against Wexford, like a team renowned for their football qualities in minor and all them grades over the last few years. So, look, brilliant win for going over there for Wexford, but London won't be down about it all either.
Yeah, definitely. Like, even if London were to lose every game, I think between now and the end of the year, like, it's still a brilliant achievement for what they've done in their opening 3 games, given the fact that they had 2-year-long layoff, and some of the teams they beat obviously as well, like beating Leitrim, I think is a phenomenal story. Thomas Gallagher did say there again, strange game over in London. They seem to have made a lot of changes, not sure what their plan is. I mean, they did have a couple of injuries and whatnot, so that probably explains it. And obviously with teams like London, I was going to say counties like London, obviously they're not a county as such, but you never really quite know what's going on there. Like, there's always going to be turnover of players, and you just never quite know what's going to happen there. Like, they're one of them teams, a bit like New York and a few other ones as well. But look, I think you have to give them credit for their opening 3 games. We'll move on to the last 2 games, and Waterford 113, Leitrim 217. Huge win for Leitrim, who, interesting enough, have, I believe, won both of their away games but lost both of their home games. But I suppose for Andy Moran's men, I mean, slightly back on the promotion trail, definitely with a chance and a big win.
Big win for them, going down to Farkerfield and winning that game. Keith Byrne as well, 12 points. Very good player. And another player that deserves recognition on the Sunday, Ryan O'Rourke as well. Brilliant performance by Leitrim. To be fair to them, one of them home games was on the Centre of Excellence against London, so maybe that was a bit far off for them. So, look, and one of them home games, of course, was against Cavan, so maybe that's a bit of a loyalist statistic there in a way. But very good win for Leitrim all the same. And they're definitely back at the promotion hunt. 4 points now. And with Sligo losing as well, London losing, they'll definitely fancy your chance of promotion, definitely. As for Waterford, look, it's where they are at the moment. So unfortunately, they're more to ladies football, hurling, camogie, soccer. They're that kind of a county. They're push football, men's football to one side. Fair play to them, said it so many times before. But still, Farkerfield can be a tough place to go down, especially for a side like Leitrim. But fair play to Andy Moran's men. They're definitely on the road to a possible promotion charge down the home stretch.
Yeah, and last but not least, the mighty Cavan with a big win there, 4-point win over Carlow. Won every game so far in 2022, and we'll throw the league table on the screen there as well, so you can see that Cavan very much on track there towards promotion. So another big win for them.
Yeah, brilliant win for them. But I suppose we expected this at the start of the year. Cavan shouldn't be in Division 4. Let's be honest with you. They've young talent coming through the ranks. They won the toughest provincial championship there is 2 seasons ago. They shouldn't be in Division 4, let's be honest. But they're just going through games without much fuss, really. And I suppose well done to Carlow in a way. They could have easily laid down after the Sligo defeat. But a win against Waterford and a 4-point loss against Carlow in Breffley Park, that is no bad feat for Carlow at all. And a very good, team victory for them in a way. But look, Cavan are way too good for Division 4. They'll romp the league again. Maybe a trip to Croke Park for the Tailteann Cup as well. So 2 trips to Croke Park for Cavan fans. You won't see that too often. I remember Cavan fans in 2013, they were just delighted to get to Croke Park against London and Kerry, and they were just exuberant. I don't think they got to Croke Park much since. Only Dublin when there was no fans there. So to get to Croke Park twice this year, it'll be brilliant for the Cavan folk, and fair play to them for that. But again, way too good for Division 4, and they should have gone up anyway. But they're going about their business, in a professional manner.
Absolutely, yeah. Looking at that division table as well, I mean, I think we'd all agree that we'd fancy Cavan to be promoted at this stage. But who do you think joins them there? I mean, there's obviously a couple of games in hand. You've got Sligo who play Cavan, and you've got Tipperary who play Wexford there. So obviously a couple of games in hand that are happening this weekend. But who would you be looking at there, do you think, that could join Cavan in that in Division 3 next year?
At the start of the year, I actually predicted Wexford. No, I know it looks a long way off looking at that table. But if Wexford win their game in hand against Tipp, they'll be on 4 points. That's a crucial game. Sligo are going to lose to Cavan, in my opinion. Cavan are just too good for Division 4. So it's all of a sudden, Wexford are only 2 points behind London in second place. London are invariably going to drop points because, they've reached the mountain and they'll come back down again, most people would think. So I think it's going to be between Sligo, Leitrim, and whoever wins between Wexford and Tipperary. I think Wexford should have enough at home. I'm going to go Wexford. I'm sticking to my prediction there. I think Wexford should have enough to get promoted. Maybe I'm being hopeful for the Wexford folk because they're just a die-hard football county in a way. They were all our semi-finalists in 2008. So why not? I think Wexford. I think Leitrim and Sligo don't ride off them. Or even Tipperary. If they win their game in hand against Wexford, they're definitely in the promotion hunt as well. But Cavan are definitely going up, and I just think Wexford might have enough to get second place.
Yeah, my only worry with Wexford is there is a lot of inconsistency in there, and I don't know, I just don't really trust them really to do enough. I think I tipped them for promotion as well, from what I remember. I might have tipped Leitrim, but I definitely thought they would be close. But I do think it'll be between Leitrim and Sligo. I think that game coming up in a couple of weeks could be a big game really between them two, and that could go a long way to decide who gets promoted. I suppose before we finish up then, who would you say was your player of the week for this weekend? I mean, a whole host of scoring, and obviously we didn't get the privilege of seeing every game, but from the games you have seen or from what you've heard, who do you think gets Player of the Week for this week?
Might be a bit biased here, but the game I went to, Shane Walsh. I know it's Division 2, but the guy is absolutely superb and rip Cork to shreds, really, and he would do for so many teams. Like, let's not forget, in the first half last year against Mayo, he was unplayable as well. He's that kind of a player, and I honestly think he's one of the best players in the country, up there with the likes of Clifford, Rian O'Neill, Oshie Mullen from Mayo as well. Superb players there, and Shane Walsh shouldn't really be a Division 2 player, but he is. Monaghan are the reason for that, sending Galway down last year. But look, my Player of the Week is Shane Walsh. Superb display, 2-7. You couldn't ask for any more. I think 2-4 from play as well. The guy's absolutely superb. Shouldn't be Division 2, but there you go.
Yeah, no, I'd have to agree as well. Like, and obviously he struggled with injuries in the past couple of years as well. So hopefully he stays fit by the time the championship comes around, because I'm sure that Galway and Mayo will be available on TV and we'll be able to see that and see how good of a game that is, and that he definitely helps Galway's chances, no doubt about that. I think I'll go with Jimmy Hyland with 1-5. I think he was brilliant, as tough as it was as a Dublin fan watching. I thought he was brilliant, so I'd probably have to go with him from what I've seen. But yeah, I suppose before we finish up, then remind people where they can find your own podcast and your Instagram page and all the rest.
GAA_Statsman on Instagram. I'm on Twitter as well, Facebook. I'm on TikTok as well. And as for the podcast, Spotify, YouTube, Apple, all them podcasting apps anyway, just search on Google as well, GAA Statsman, and you'll find most of the links there.
Brilliant, perfect. Well, cheers very much, Matthew, for coming on as always. And if you could check out his channel and everything in the description down below, and if you could subscribe to this channel as well, that'd be absolutely perfect. Hit the like button, all the rest, and if you're listening on Spotify, if you could give the podcast a rating, very much helps the channel and everything grow. So yeah, perfect, Matthew. Cheers for coming on.
Thanks very much, Aaron. Glad to be on once again.